Tonight we drift softly into the Yamato countryside, where the lanterns are few, the homes are wooden and warm, and the evening settles like silk across the rooftops. No great battles here, no court intrigue, just the slow rhythm of family life, the quiet clink of bowls, the rustle of robes, the distant hush of wind through bamboo. This is a night in a village that no longer stands, but if you listen gently, you might still hear its breath. If the pace feels right to you, unhurried, low and steady, you're welcome to stay. You can like the video or subscribe if the quiet suits you, and if you'd like, share where you're listening from. There's something tender in knowing others are out there, listening too, beneath their own patch of stars. The sky, once bright with afternoon light, begins its gentle descent into dusk. A pale warmth lingers on the horizon, its soft glow brushing the tops of the distant hills, now dusky and blue. Overhead the clouds stretch thin and low, tinted with quiet strokes of peach, lavender, and soft grey. The light no longer glares, it rests. Out across the lowland plains, the rice paddies glisten. Each shallow plot, bordered by narrow earthen ridges, holds the day's last light in small, trembling reflections. The surface of the water shimmers faintly, disturbed now and then by a lazy breeze or the slow movement of a frog just below the surface. The scent of damp earth rises gently as the air begins to cool. It carries with it the trace of green shoots, wet straw, and the faint musk of waterlogged soil. There is no rush here, no noise of urgency, just the hush of evening descending, steady and kind. Farmers, clad in loose, earth-toned robes, move slowly along the rows. Their sleeves are rolled, the fabric darkened by the day's work. Their hands are stained with soil, yet there is no sign of hurry in their motions. They move deliberately, checking the buns, tending to the young stalks, adjusting small wooden gates that allow water to pass from one field to another. Nearby, a water wheel creaks gently, its rhythmic turning echoing faintly in the stillness. Wooden paddles dip into the canal and rise again, lifting water with a soft splash. This sound has played for hours, unnoticed until the silence of dusk brings it forward like a distant heartbeat. Birds move slowly across the sky, wings extended in the soft air. Egrets, tall and still like ivory statues, lift off in small groups from the wetter fields. Their wings beat with slow, deliberate grace as they head toward the nearby trees. Others remain, their long necks tucked as they settle into shallow water, preparing for the quiet of night. In the distance, a child calls out, not loud but clear, the voice echoing briefly before falling back into the hush. A woman answers, her tone gentle, and the silhouettes of a family begin to gather near the edge of the field. The father sets down his hoe, leans it against a tree, and wipes his brow with a sleeve. He doesn't speak, but his movements are light, almost thoughtful, as if he's listening to something within the silence. A narrow path, worn smooth by generations of feet, winds between the paddies. Along it, someone passes with a bundle of thatch, walking slowly, sandals brushing against the dry dirt. The bundle rustles softly with each step, like the turning of pages in an old book. Above, the colours of the sky deepen. The sun, now hidden behind the trees, leaves behind a quiet kind of gold that touches the rice plants, giving their narrow leaves a muted shimmer. Shadows grow longer, stretching gently along the water's edge. There is no speech here that needs words. The work is winding down, not with a final push, but with a gradual tapering, like a candle slowly burning lower. A farmer stoops to pull a weed and straightens again, his eyes lingering on the field as if he's seeing it for the first time that day. The lines in his face are soft in the light. The creases around his eyes deepened not by stress, but by years of sun and laughter. The rhythm of breathing, the soft crunch of straw underfoot, the distant call of an evening bird. These are the sounds that fill the space now. They aren't loud. They don't demand attention. They simply are. The air begins to shift, touched with the cooler breath of night. Fireflies begin to rise, one at a time, their lights blinking faintly in the reeds and grasses along the paddy borders. They hover for a moment, then disappear as if shy. In the fading light, someone lights a small lantern near the path. Its flame is pale at first, then steady. The paper screen glows with a quiet orange hue, casting a faint circle of warmth on the ground. It doesn't chase away the darkness, it simply joins it, a small comfort in the growing stillness. The rice paddies will remain here through the night, silent and slow. The water will hold the sky's reflection as it turns to stars. The frogs will begin to call in low tones, and the wind, too gentle to be noticed during the day, will hum faintly through the trees. And the village, just beyond the fields, will begin to stir in new ways, not with labour, but with evening rituals, meals, stories, candles lit with quiet hands. But for now, the fields rest, the light fades, and the day, like the water, flows onward into night. Evening settles over the village with a quiet, unspoken grace. The sun has dipped fully below the hills, leaving behind only a thin seam of pale gold along the western sky. Above it, twilight deepens slowly into a shade of blue that feels both vast and close, like a blanket being drawn carefully across the sky. At the edge of the fields, the dirt paths wind gently between low homes, simple wooden structures, raised slightly above the earth on smooth stones. Their walls are made of timber, softened by time, and their roofs are thatched with layers of reed, now darkened with years of weather. In the soft air of dusk, they seem to breathe alongside the people who inhabit them. Inside these homes, the first signs of night begin, not with sound, but with light. A hand reaches out toward a small oil lamp. Fingers, steady with practice, lift the wooden cover and strike a flint. The spark is quiet, nearly inaudible, but in a moment a tiny flame dances into being. It leans slightly in the stillness, before settling into a steady, patient glow. The lamp is placed inside a paper lantern, its pale rice paper sides painted with soft, curling ink lines, waves, blossoms, cranes in flight. The lantern is lifted and hung gently at the entrance of the home. And like that, the night begins. One by one, across the village, more lanterns are lit. Their light is not harsh, never harsh. It glows with the colour of warmth, somewhere between amber and tea. Each one flickers a little differently, catching the evening breeze as it moves gently through the open eaves and narrow lanes. From the path, the light spills softly, tracing golden lines across the ground, warming the walls, brushing over wooden steps and woven mats. Shadows are long now, but no longer sharp. They pool in corners and gather beneath the eaves, content to be still. The people of the village move with the same quiet rhythm as before. Ray. There is no rush in this place, no bustle, only a shift in intention. The work of the day has ended, the work of rest has begun. A child sits cross-legged near a doorway, watching as her mother trims the wick of another lamp. The mother hums, almost without sound, a lullaby not meant to lull to sleep, but simply to fill the space between moments. The child reaches forward, hands outstretched, and the mother smiles gently, allowing her to carry the lantern to the next room. It's a small thing, but meaningful. In this world, light is passed with care. Further down the lane, a man adjusts the hanging position of his lantern. He steps back, surveys the way the light falls across the step, then nudges the cord slightly, letting it sway once, then settle. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. The lantern's glow now reaches the plum tree nearby, casting its branches in silhouette against the wall. A soft murmur of conversation drifts through the still air, low, deliberate, never hurried. From one home comes the quiet clatter of bowls being set out for supper. From another, the sound of a ladle stirring slowly in a pot, the scent of miso, of roasted barley tea, of simmered greens and warm rice moves gently through the village, mingling with the faint woody smell of the lantern oil. Along the central path, the flickering lights form a trail, not bright, not strong, but consistent, like stars gathered at the earth's edge. It is not a celebration, there is no occasion. It is simply how the village transitions, each day, without fail, from day into night. In the distance, someone closes a door with a muted thud. A dog gives a soft, single bark, then curls into the straw beside the doorway. Its ears twitch, but it does not stir again. Between the homes, bamboo fences creak slightly, stirred by the cooling breeze. Tiny bells, hung beneath the eaves, chime once, clear, then gone. The village breathes out. From above, it would look as if fireflies had nested here permanently, small lights glowing against the darkening land, held in place by wooden walls and human hands. And in a way, that's not far from the truth. These lanterns are a kind of memory, a kind of presence. They hold the shape of tradition, of safety, of the rhythm passed from one generation to the next. Inside the homes, families begin to gather. Slippers are set in pairs by the door. Cloaks and straw hats are hung carefully on pegs. Elders sit near the hearth, their faces half lit by the flickering oil light, their eyes watching the flames dance in the small iron kettle hung above the coals. The village itself seems to have two hearts now, one outside among the lanterns, and one inside where warmth and steam and shared stories begin to take shape. And above it all, the sky grows darker still, its palette shifting into deeper blues, then quiet black. Stars appear quietly, as if listening. The moon rises slowly, casting a silver hush over rooftops and garden walls. But it is the lanterns that remain the truest lights for now. They do not outshine the stars. They do not challenge the moon. They simply continue to glow, soft, gentle, constant, keeping company with the night. The door slides open with a soft rasp, wood gliding along wood, smooth with age. There is no hinge to creak, no handle to turn, just the low whisper of motion, followed by stillness. Inside, the air changes. It is warmer here, gentler. The scent of wood smoke lingers, blending with the faint, sweet trace of sandalwood incense. It is the scent of calm, of continuity, the sort of smell that settles into the walls, into clothing, into memory. Your feet step from the earthen genkan, the sunken entryway, onto smooth wooden flooring, then onto something softer, woven straw, warm from the day's fading light. Tatami mats, carefully laid in a precise, respectful pattern, their edges bound with dark cloth, their surfaces textured like quiet waves beneath your soles. The room opens not with grandeur, but with peace. The walls are made of cedar and cypress, darkened by time and touched by soot from the hearth. You can see where hands have passed often, polishing corners, brushing frames. Wood, here, does not stay raw. It is shaped by presence. To your left, a small alcove, the tokonoma. Inside, a simple scroll hangs, its calligraphy flowing like water. A poem, perhaps, or a Zen phrase, chosen not to impress, but to soothe. Below it, A ceramic vase, modest in size, holds 3 branches of plum blossom, one already fading, one in full bloom, and one still in bud, a quiet reminder of time's slow passing. The room is not large. It does not need to be. Each item has its place. A low table with folded legs rests in the centre, its surface bearing the faint sheen of polished use. Around it, flat cushions, zabuton, invite stillness, not slouching. One sits not to sprawl, but to be present. Even in rest there is intention. The walls do not close in. They breathe. Made from shoji, wooden lattice frames wrapped in translucent paper, they allow light to pass gently, never sharply, even now with Nig. 8 fully fallen. The pale lantern light outside glows through, giving the room the feeling of being neither fully enclosed nor fully exposed. It is as if the house exists both indoors and out, in balance. A soft creak comes from deeper within. Someone steps across the timber floor with tabi-wrapped feet. No shoes pass beyond the genkan. This is a space of quiet reverence, where even footsteps speak softly. In one corner, the hearth. An irori, sunken into the floor, its edges lined with smooth stones, its centre filled with glowing charcoal. A blackened iron kettle hangs from the adjustable hook above it. The water inside hums gently, never boiling, just a deep, contented murmur. The heat from the coals rises slowly, radiating outward rather than blazing. It is not meant to dazzle, only to warm. Above, the wooden rafters crisscross high overhead. In the dim glow of the lantern, you can make out the dark stains where smoke has curled and lingered over generations. Some of the beams are polished from hands brushing them in passing, or from the occasional touch when sweeping out cobwebs. Everything bears the mark of use, not decay, but quiet endurance. In the side room, sliding fusuma doors, opaque and pale, mark off sleeping quarters. Beyond them lie neatly folded futon, resting on raised tatami, ready for the hour when the night deepens further. There are no heavy beds, no lofty furnishings, only what is needed. Comfort here is not excess, it is simplicity, attended to with care. The family gathers, a grandmother adjusts the kettle, checking the tea leaves laid carefully in a small clay pot. A child carries 2 bowls to the table, careful not to spill. A father stirs something over a small charcoal stove in the adjacent kitchen alcove. The mother sets down 2 lacquered trays with pickled radish, still warm rice, and a bit of grilled fish. There is no rush. The meal is not an event, but a gentle rhythm. Steam rises slowly from bowls. Hands are pressed together in thanks. A quiet chorus of itadakimasu fills the room, not shouted, not exclaimed, simply offered. The room glows. The paper lanterns flicker softly, and their light reflects gently on the grains of wood, on the surface of the table, on the porcelain of the bowls. Shadows pool gently in the corners, gathering but not intruding. Time seems to move differently here. The outside world, its noise, its movement, feels distant, not excluded, but irrelevant for now. Inside the Yamato home, there is only this moment, the warmth of the fire, the scent of cedar and smoke, the slow unfolding of the evening meal, the murmur of voices that do not rise or strain, the brush of fabric, the steam of tea, and all around. So the structure itself, timber and tatami, built not to impress, but to endure, not to contain, but to cradle. As the meal ends and the lanterns grow dimmer, the home does not fall silent, it simply deepens. Like a forest at night, quiet but full of life, a place to rest, a place to breathe. The sky outside has deepened from indigo to near black, though a trace of plum-hued twilight still lingers along the edge of the horizon. In the distance, the quiet rustling of bamboo continues, softer now, as if settling itself for rest. Inside the home, the hearth's warm glow flickers across the polished wood floor and tatami mats. It casts no hard shadows, only gentle ripples of light, like reflections in still water. The family gathers without summons, without haste. Evening has arrived, and with it the meal. A low table sits at the centre of the main room, its legs folded inward, lacquered wood polished to a dark sheen. Around it, flat cushions are arranged with quiet care, each one placed deliberately, neither too close nor too far. There is no seating hierarchy here, only balance. The aroma in the room is subtle, earthy. Grilled river fish, its skin gently crisped over the charcoal stove, mingles with the tang of pickled daikon and the soft, nutty warmth of steamed millet. A pot of tea rests off to the side, its lid barely tilted to let out the smallest wisp of steam. The scent is green, clean, and grounding. Wooden trays are placed on the table, each carrying small dishes arranged with an eye for quiet harmony. Portions are modest but thoughtfully prepared. The rice, sticky and steaming, has been pressed into gentle mounds. The fish is served whole, delicate bones still intact, garnished with shiso leaf. A tiny bowl of tsukemono, pickled vegetables, perhaps cucumber or radish, adds just a trace of sharpness. A clay vessel holds soy-brewed burdock root, thin and dark, like strands of forest. Nobody rushes to eat. There is no need. Hands come together in front of the heart, fingers interlaced, heads bowed slightly. The words are spoken softly. Ita dakimasu, I humbly receive. The room acknowledges not just the food, but everything that brought it here. Soil, rain, effort, care. Chopsticks are raised. The soft click of porcelain and the occasional shifting of a tray are the loudest sounds. There is no need for conversation to fill the air. In the Yamato home, silence is not empty. It is honoured, shared. The eldest takes the first bite, slow and measured. Others follow. The millet is dense and warming, offering a quiet satisfaction. The fish flakes gently from the bone, its flesh moist from slow grilling. The pickles, crisp and cool, offer contrast. A gentle burst of vinegar and salt that sharpens the senses just enough. The child at the table eats carefully, mindful not to spill. He glances once at the grandmother, who nods with only the faintest smile. Nothing is said, yet something is exchanged. Outside, a cicada begins to sing, its call slow and rhythmic now, no longer the feverish buzz of daytime. It is joined by the soft rasp of tree frogs. Their chorus feels distant, like a lullaby whispered through paper walls. One of the family members pours the tea. The sound is almost inaudible, yet unmistakable, water meeting ceramic in a brief, delicate sigh. The tea is served in small, handleless cups, no ornament, just smooth clay and steady hands. As it is sipped, there is a long pause. No one tries to fill it. Instead, the warmth of the tea, the earthiness of roasted leaves, the comfort of the moment, all settle into the room like mist. A shared breath, a shared stillness. Conversation, when it happens, is sparse. A quiet comment about the flavour of the fish. A soft question about the next planting day. The reply comes after a moment, not rushed. Words drift gently between bites, like fallen leaves carried on a slow stream. The light in the room dims as the oil in the lantern lowers. Shadows deepen into the corners, and the wooden beams above absorb the glow like sponge soaking ink. The hearth embers crackle faintly, a single coal shifting, a brief pulse of light, then calm again. The meal begins to wind down. Bowls are tilted gently to catch the last of the broth. A final piece of pickled plum is taken, not out of hunger, but for closure. One by one, the dishes are placed neatly on their trays, used chopsticks laid across them in quiet gratitude. Hands return to prayer position. Again, softly, Gochisu-sama deshita, thank you for the feast. Each person rises slowly, not out of obligation but rhythm. A cloth is brought to wipe the table. The cushions are gently straightened, trays carried off to be washed later in cold well water under the stars. The child helps, mimicking the careful gestures of his mother, learning not through instruction but observation. The room, and now cleared of the meal, feels even more spacious. The scent of tea lingers faintly, warm and herbal. The hearth has dimmed, but a few glowing coals remain. Outside, the night has fully fallen, but inside, peace holds firm. No shouts, no urgency, no sound beyond the breeze slipping through the shoji screens and the faint creaking of timber, expanding and contracting in the night air. This is how a meal ends in the Yamato village. Not with fullness, but with stillness, not with spectacle, but with quiet connection. And as the family steps into the next hour, toward sleep, toward dreams, the memory of the meal lingers, soft and grounding, like footprints left in dust. The moon has risen now, quietly, without ceremony, a pale, round lantern in the sky, diffused slightly by a light mist that clings to the hills beyond the village. It casts no sharp beams, only a faint silver glow that softens everything it touches. The homes are quiet. The rice fields, earlier golden with dusk, are now deep pools of shadow. Water still trickles through their narrow channels, a constant, delicate hush, like silk, sliding over stone. Somewhere far off, a single frog calls, a long, low croak that fades into the stillness. Then another answers, further away, as if replying from the edge of memory. A bamboo grove lines the eastern side of the village. In the dark, its tall stalks bend and sway ever so slightly in the evening breeze. The sound is not loud, more a whisper of leaves brushing against one another, a dry, papery murmur. Occasionally a hollow knock echoes faintly as one stalk taps another in passing. From within the nearby forest there is movement, small and unhurried, the padded steps of an animal crossing underbrush, the flutter of wings as a night bird adjusts its perch. A soft hoot, solitary and measured, echoes once across the trees, then fades. The bird does not call again. The village seems to listen to itself in these hours. No one speaks. Doors are shut, lanterns dimmed, but the world outside continues in slow rhythm, as if the forest breathes along with the people sleeping nearby. At the edge of one garden, a wind chime sways from the eaves of a roof. Made of thin glass, it rings only when the breeze stirs just enough. The tone it produces is high and fleeting, like the sound of snow melting, or a teacup touched gently with a fingertip. It rings once, then once again a few breaths later, and then is still for many long minutes. A pond rests in the centre of the village. It catches the moonlight like a mirror clouded slightly with mist. In tall, water, koi fish drift lazily near the surface. Their movements are slow, half asleep, rippling the reflection with each turn of their tails. Now and then one rises to sip at the surface, making a soft circle in the otherwise still water. The air smells faintly of earth, cool and clean. Somewhere a wisp of incense lingers, perhaps left burning from an evening altar, its last ember finally fading. The scent is faint, woody with a touch of sweetness, like cedar softened by time. There are no footsteps on the paths tonight, only the occasional creak of wood, old beams settling, shoji doors shifting in their frames. These are not sounds of alarm, but of a house breathing, adjusting itself to the changing night air. The people inside sleep under futon covers, their breathing as steady as the leaves outside. Somewhere in the distance a deer cries, a short, high sound, more breath than voice. It's not repeated. Perhaps it was a dream escaping from the animal's mouth. Perhaps it was nothing at all. The moon moves slowly across the sky. It casts elongated shadows that stretch across the ground like drifting threads. A thatched roof glimmers softly where dew has begun to gather, each straw crowned with a bead of light. The forest and the village continue their shared stillness. Along the western wall of a house, ivy rustles gently. A moth with wide wings lands briefly on the paper screen of a window, attracted to the faint glow within. Its wings pulse twice, then it lifts off again, disappearing into the night. The paper screen, touched by moonlight and moth shadow, glows faintly like a cloud in sleep. Near the garden gate, a stone statue watches the path. Its features are worn by time, its surface cool with moisture. Moss grows along its base in thick green tufts. It does not move, but seems to watch, quiet and content. It has seen many nights like this one. The frogs call again, not in chorus but in sequence. A pause, then a reply. Then nothing but water sounds and wind. This is the soundscape of the Yamato night. Not silence, but softness. Not emptiness, but balance. Each sound carries meaning not through its volume, but its presence. No sound pushes another aside. They coexist, like stars in the sky, each faint but clear in its place. And slowly, as the night deepens, even these sounds begin to rest. The frogs grow quieter, the wind slows, the chime sways no more. The moon is high now, still bright, still watching, but the world beneath it, wrapped in soft textures and whispered breaths, is almost asleep. Almost. The last sounds of the night, a distant splash, perhaps a fish, or perhaps a dream, fade gently into the quiet that follows. And the village breathes once more with the forest. The hour grows later. The sky, already deep in colour, has settled into stillness. Even the breeze feels less urgent now, touching only gently across rooftops and between narrow garden paths. Inside one of the homes, the lanterns burn lower, wick shortened, the flames soft and slow, casting rounded shadows on the cedar walls. There is no rush here. The day has ended, and what follows now is not an obligation, but a quiet return. A return to rhythm, to memory, to spirit. Near the back of the house, in a space set slightly apart from the common room, a small kamidana rests on a wooden shelf. The household shrine, humble and unadorned, yet cared for with deep reverence. It holds no grandeur, only meaning. A tiny torii gate, carved from cypress wood, perhaps a folded offering of rice paper, a dish with salt or grains, and a sprig of evergreen left from the morning. The room is dim, though not dark. A single lantern glows nearby. Its light does not reach all corners, but that is not needed. The space is already full, with scent, with breath, with quiet intention. A figure kneels before the kamidana. Their posture is still, hands resting lightly in their lap. They do not speak at first. The silence is part of the ritual, not emptiness, but a listening, a space made clear to invite presence. Then, gently, a piece of incense is lifted from a small lacquered box. The scent is familiar, sandalwood, softened by age and handling. It is placed with care into a tiny clay holder, shaped like a lotus bud. A candle is brought near. The tip of the incense darkens, then glows softly before giving birth to smoke. The first tendrils rise, thin, nearly invisible at first. Then they begin to curl, slow and deliberate, coiling upward as if they carry a message meant for quieter realms. The scent deepens, fills the room, lingers on the sleeves of the kimono, worn for rest. Not ceremonial, but modest, and clean, dyed in quiet colours that reflect moonlight more than they reflect the fire. The kneeling figure bows once, then again, not sharply, not urgently. The movement is fluid, unbroken, as if memory and body move together. Hands come together in a silent gesture, fingers resting gently against each other. The head bows a final time, just enough to touch thought to earth. There are no chants tonight, only breath, only small thoughts formed inside, addressed not to the sky, but to what remains close, the spirits of family, the soul of the home, the ever-present kami of forest, river, and mountain. A bowl of rice is placed before the shrine, still warm from dinner, a small offering from the family's evening meal. It is not the amount that matters, but the gesture, a sharing of sustenance with those unseen. Beside the rice, a folded paper charm rests. It is inscribed with a few brushstrokes, nothing elaborate, perhaps the name of a departed ancestor, perhaps a wish. The ink is slightly faded, but that too is part of the texture. Things do not need to be perfect to be meaningful. Outside, a faint breeze stirs again, nudging the edge of the door open just slightly. The smoke from the incense shifts, changing its path as if in response. It now curls toward the ceiling, tracing delicate spirals in the dim air before dissolving into the unseen. Another figure enters quietly, a younger one. They kneel beside the first without speaking, their presence enough. The two sit for a moment, side by side, watching the smoke, breathing together. Eventually the younger one lifts a tiny wooden clapper and strikes it gently, once. The sound is hollow, round, and short-lived. Not sharp, but present. It marks the offering, calls attention, and then fades into stillness again. They bow together once more, and then, slowly, the small flame is extinguished, not by breath, but by cupping the candle with a bowl. Darkness returns to the room, now scented with incense and grounded by intention. Outside the home, other families are finishing similar rituals. Some leave sake in tiny dishes, others whisper brief prayers, some simply light a candle and pause. Each ritual is different, shaped by tradition, yet softened by the personal. There are no grand altars here, no grand declarations, just small, sincere acts, woven into daily life, like thread into cloth. In the corner of the room, the smoke has nearly disappeared, but the scent lingers. It will remain in the wooden beams through the night, a quiet reminder of connection between the living and the dead, the visible and the unseen, the home and the land it rests upon. The household sleeps soon after, but the spirit of reverence, of remembering, remain as awake in the quiet air, and above the roof the moon continues its slow walk across the Yamato sky. The fire in the hearth has grown low. Its warmth still reaches the room, though its light is now soft and golden, flickering across walls the colour of steeped tea. In the corner of the room, not far from where the incense once rose, an older woman sits with her back straight and legs tucked beneath her. The cushion beneath her is worn at the edges, shaped by years of familiar use. A loom, modest and handmade, rests before her, its wood darkened by age and touched in places by the oil of careful hands. The house around her is quiet. Children have gone to sleep. The voices of the day have stilled, and even the nearby crickets seem to pause now and then, as though listening. She begins to weave. The loom's shuttle slides across the threads with a whisper-soft sound, a steady, breath-like rhythm, back and forth, forward and through. Her hands, roughened by years, move without hesitation. They do not rush. They do not falter. The motion is not just skill, but memory, a language of the body, passed down and practiced not with urgency, but with reverence. The warp threads are held taut, stretched like thin lines of thought. The weft, guided gently with each motion, weaves between them like a story, one strand at a time. This weaving is not for trade. It is not part of the market bustle, or for some ceremony. It is cloth for the family, perhaps for a child's future kimono, or the lining of a sleeping mat, something humble, useful, quiet. She leans in slightly, eyes focused not on the whole, but on the single thread in her hand. The firelight brushes her cheek as she works, catching in the strands of silver hair tied simply at her neck. Her expression is calm, not distracted, not strained, simply present. The cloth grows slowly beneath her fingers, a soft, natural tone made from fibers prepared seasons ago. The dye is faint, pulled from bark and roots, faded like dusk before moonrise. The sound of the shuttle is joined now by the creak of the loom's frame, a gentle sound, like wood remembering wind. It adds to the room's rhythm, one that seems to slow time rather than mark it. Above her, the rafters are dark with smoke from many winters. A single string of dried persimmons hangs near the ceiling, gently swaying as if responding to each pull of the loom. Occasionally she pauses, not from fatigue but to feel the fabric, to smooth a seam or check the line of the threads. She runs her palm across the surface, and though her fingers are worn, they notice every change, every softness. The cloth responds like skin touched by moonlight. In the next room, someone shifts in sleep, and a soft exhale reaches her ear, but she does not turn. The rhythm continues. This night weaving is a ritual of its own, not formal, not spoken of. It is simply what she has always done, what her mother did, and her mother before her. A quiet time, when the world has stilled and the hands can move without interruption. The cloth becomes more than cloth. It holds warmth, memory, the presence of quiet hours. Perhaps she thinks of the field where the flax was grown, or of the younger hands who spun the fibres, or perhaps of nothing at all, only the gentle insistence of motion and the gift of being still while doing. Time here is not kept by clock or bell. It is marked by the feel of the work beneath her, the dimming glow of the fire, the slow arc of the moonlight edging across the wall. Eventually, she stops, not at a break, but at a natural pause. Her hands come to rest on her lap. She looks at the cloth, not with pride or scrutiny, but with quiet acceptance. What was done tonight is enough. The loom creaks one last time as she rises. She folds a cloth gently over the finished section, protecting it from the night air. The fire in the hearth gives a soft sigh as she passes by, casting a last flicker across the floor. She makes her way toward the sleeping room, her steps slow, deliberate, careful not to disturb the quiet that now wraps the house like another layer of woven cloth. The house settles again, and from the loom the unfinished thread waits, a line stretching gently into tomorrow, held in place by memory, by patience, and by the hush of firelight. The fire has settled now into low embers, their warmth radiating in quiet pulses through the floorboards. Around the hearth, the night continues its slow unfolding, wrapping the house in stillness. The older children sit cross-legged on thin cushions, their bodies heavy with sleep, but their eyes still open, drawn to the familiar rhythm of an old voice. It is the grandmother again, her weaving finished, her hands now folded in her lap. She does not raise her voice. Her words are soft, like the rustling of rice stalks in a faint breeze. The children lean in without moving closer, their attention held not by volume or urgency, but by the comfort of something they have heard before and still wish to hear again. Tonight's tale is one of the fox, not the fox of the hunt, nor the fox of mischief, but the watchful fox who walks just beyond the edge of light. In the grove past the shrine, she begins gently, there lives a fox whose fur is the color of fallen ash. She does not run from people. She watches. The children know this grove. It sits beyond the last house of the village, where the path narrows and the trees lean in toward each other. Some have walked past it in the daytime, hurried just a little without knowing why. None have gone there at night. The grandmother speaks slowly. They say she has lived for 100 seasons, that she listens to what the wind carries and remembers the names of those who speak kindly to the forest. Her voice barely rises. The fire cracks softly, a single ember shifting its place. She does not punish, she continues. She only observes. And if you bring her rice, or a plum, or simply a bow of respect, she will follow you for a time, not to scare, but to learn your story. One child, the youngest, murmurs without speaking. Just a breath, a signal of wondering. The older ones say nothing, but their posture is quiet, attentive. They have heard stories like this before, but each telling feels different, like listening to rain fall in a new pattern. Not all tales are about foxes. The grandmother's voice drifts onward, now speaking of the hollow tree behind the well, the one that hums during storms, or the time the lantern in the shrine flickered for 3 nights, even though no one had lit it. She does not explain these things. She does not try to make them large. They are simply part of the world, spoken aloud, then left to rest in the silence. There are stories of villagers too, not heroes, not warriors. A man who planted the same flower every year outside the temple gate, until one season it bloomed in the snow. A child who could hear when the mountain stones whispered in the spring. A woman who never forgot a face, even from dreams. These stories aren't told to teach, but to remember. Not always clearly, but softly, like recalling the scent of cedar after a long walk. The children's eyes grow heavy. One of them leans into their sibling, drifting gently, still listening. The grandmother's voice grows even slower now, like stepping stones placed far apart. She once appeared, she says at last, returning to the fox, when a traveller lost his way. He had no lantern, and the stars were hidden, but he heard soft steps behind him, and though he was afraid, he kept walking. A pause. The room seems to listen too. She followed until the first rooster cried. When he turned, she was gone, but her paw prints were there in the frost. No one asks questions. That isn't the way of these stories. They are meant to linger, not be unwrapped. Outside, the wind passes gently through the thatched roof, stirring the bamboo wind chime that hangs from the eaves. It makes a soft, hollow sound. A sound that seems older than the house itself. The grandmother closes her eyes for a moment. She does not announce the end of the tale. She simply stops speaking, as if the story was never hers to own. The fire embers are dim now, no longer glowing brightly, but still holding warmth. A child is carried to bed. Another curls near the hearth, wrapped in an old robe. The grandmother remains for a while, unmoving, her gaze toward the shadows in the corners of the room, perhaps remembering, perhaps simply resting. Outside, beyond the village, the forest breathes, and somewhere past the last shrine, the grove stands silent, the place where stories begin and end, without ever needing to be fully known. The house, once again, is quiet. The house is dim now. Only the faintest glow from the hearth remains, like a memory of fire rather than flame. Footsteps move softly across the wooden floor, careful not to wake those already sleeping, but guided still by habit, by the last ritual of the evening. In a corner behind a sliding door, where the cedar boards are darkened with age and steam, the bath is being prepared. It is not a grand bathhouse or a rushing stream, but a small wooden space, enclosed and quiet. There is a tub, round and deep, carved from hinoki cypress, its grain smoothed by years of warm water and silent use. Outside the room, a kettle rests over the embers. Water, long drawn from the village well, has reached a slow boil. It does not hiss or bubble loudly, only a faint shimmer of sound as it shifts in the iron pot. Someone kneels beside it, carefully lifting it with a cloth-wrapped hand. The water is poured into a wooden basin first, then ladled gently into the tub, mixing with cooler well water already drawn earlier in the day. Each movement is deliberate, each sound softened by repetition. The room begins to warm. Steam rises, slow and translucent, curling into the beams overhead. The air thickens with cedar, with water, with quiet. The outside world fades just a little more. Before entering, there is cleansing, always. A stool is placed by the wash bucket. The hands pour water from a dipper, letting it fall over shoulders and back. No soap, no rush, just warm water meeting skin, washing away the day in layers. Dust, sweat, the weight of hours spent bending over soil or stove, all released without hurry. The dipper is set down with a quiet tap. Then the body slips into the bath. The first touch of the warm water draws a breath, not sharp but steady, a gentle intake that seems to slow the heart. The body yields to the heat, muscles softening as if remembering how to be still. Knie is drawn in, arms wrapped loosely, eyes close, not from sleep but from peace. Inside this space, time drips slowly. The only sounds are the small shifts of water, the subtle movement of steam across the skin, and breath, always breath, like the tide of a very quiet sea. There is no conversation, no need for it. The bath is not a place for talk, but for returning to oneself. A simple ritual, passed down without instruction. Even children understand. Here we are silent. Here we let the day settle and pass. Outside the bathing room, the night deepens. A bamboo grove sighs as wind brushes through it. Somewhere distant, a temple bell marks the hour. Not loudly, but enough to stir the air. A low hum that threads through the village and disappears into the hills. The water cools slowly. The skin begins to rise with warmth. The bather rests a hand on the tub's rim, fingers trailing along the wet wood grain. A familiar feeling, smooth and solid. No clocks tick, no lanterns flicker here. Just the sense that all things are ready for sleep. When the time comes, the body is lifted gently from the tub. A small cloth is used to pat dry, not to scrub, but to press, to absorb. Hair wrapped in linen, the floor cool beneath the feet. Garments of undyed cotton wait nearby, soft from use, folded neatly. The water is not drained in haste. It is left to cool on its own. The room exhales steam, slow and rising. The scent of cedar lingers in the air, clinging to skin, to breath. Outside, the household is nearly still. One last lantern glows faintly by the doorway. A moth taps against the paper screen, then rests. The night insects sing in low, steady pulses. Back inside, the futon has been laid out across the tatami. The bather returns to the sleeping space, body lighter now, breathing easier. The covers are drawn, the limbs curl in. The warmth of the bath remains, not hot, not heavy, but enough to carry the self gently into slumber. The house sleeps, one by one. Even the walls seem to quiet themselves, and through the open slats of the window, moonlight reaches in across the floor, touching the wood with silver calm. No voices, no movement, just rest. The bath water cools, the steam fades, and the night, still and soft, watches over everything in silence. The house no longer moves. It does not creak beneath steps, nor echo with quiet speech. The bath water has cooled. The hearth holds only the soft ghost of fire, a faint amber dimness beneath its ash. The last of the steam has drifted upward, vanished into the night. Shoji screens have been drawn, doors closed gently, mats straightened. One by one, each person has found their place among the futon, cotton-filled and carefully unrolled on smooth straw tatami. No need for words now. The day has already said all it needed. A final gesture is made before sleep, a bow, slow and small, before the family shrine. The space is simple, a wooden shelf, a mirror resting in the center, a few seasonal offerings, perhaps a persimmon or a bowl of rice left untouched. The air here still holds the faint curl of incense from earlier in the evening. The bow is not dramatic or formal. It is habitual, a quiet honoring of what came before and what will come again. Outside, the village is nearly indistinguishable from the land around it. Roof lines blend into the dark slopes of hill and field. The moon, nearly full, casts a milk-pale wash over rooftops and garden stones. Its light touches the ridges of thatched roofs, the worn grain of doors, and the polished curve of rain basins left uncovered. Everything glows in a silence that feels older than the buildings themselves. Crickets sing now, not loudly, but steadily. Their rhythm pulses in waves, broken only by the slow scrape of wind through bamboo stalks. A frog offers a low sound from somewhere near the well. A single owl calls once, then does not call again. The world has become soft. Inside the house, sleeping bodies shift gently beneath blankets. The cotton fabric rustles only slightly, a whisper against the still air. Children breathe in patterns that seem to follow the breeze outside. An older couple, side by side beneath layered quilts, lie with hands resting lightly on their stomachs. Their breathing is matched, slow and even. The scent of cedar, of rice, of faint smoke from earlier meals still lingers faintly on the folds of their robes. There is no light now, save for the moon and the stars, and even those feel like they belong to the quiet. Their presence is steady, no blinking, no flicker, only the vast stillness of sky, stretched out like a smooth sheet over the village below. The foxes are likely awake now, somewhere beyond the trees. Their forms pass unseen across the fields and between shrine stones. The villagers do not fear them. The stories told earlier around the fire were never meant to frighten. The foxes, like everything else in the world, simply have their own rhythm, their own time. The last sound from within the home is a soft exhale, a sigh not from worry or effort, but from the settling of the body into full rest, a kind of surrender, not dramatic, but familiar. There is nothing left to do. A breeze moves through the gap beneath the eaves. It carries the smell of dew forming on grass, of pine, and distant river water. The insects do not pause their song, but lean into it more fully now that human sounds have gone quiet. The home itself seems to sleep. Its timbers, its walls, its woven mats, each part of it breathes along with the people within, not alive in the way bodies are, but not inanimate either. It holds memory, it holds warmth, it shelters the hush of night as gently as it once held the voices of children or the soft clatter of bowls. And so the night falls fully, not all at once, but like silk slowly drawn across the land. Each breath, each pause deepens its hold. The stars remain, the roof remains, the hearts beneath that roof beat quietly onward. Nothing more is needed, not now, not until morning. Let the stillness stretch a little longer. Let the night wide and steady keep its watch. Let it all rest.